Business Jet Engine with me. And if you have a quick look to the bottom of your screen, you'll see a little green button that says Business Jet Engine free trial. So if you're quite interested in what Martin has to say, there's a little 28-day free trial down there. We'll also pop that up on the website after we've finished today's chat. And yeah, you can see what it's all about. But welcome, Martin.
Thank you. Good to be here.
I'm just going to check our restreaming is working. It so is, so that's good. It's all happening over there. Martin, as I just said, runs something called the Business Jet Engine. But I came to know Martin because I was looking for a mentor. And most of you who are familiar with Pure will see that Pure has gone through quite a transformation over the last 18 months or so. In fact, it went through a transformation twice. Once into the real world and then once into the digital world because of COVID. But I can definitely advocate Martin's services as helping me clearly think through how to make that process work. And that's how I got to know Martin, by wanting to find a mentor for myself. And Martin was brilliant, absolutely brilliant at just making me slow down, think. And as we were saying in the green room, you can multitask, but that just means, what is your definition of multitasking?
Doing lots of things all at once really badly.
That's
or not terribly well is probably
not terribly well. That's pretty much where I was, firefighting on all fronts. And I wanted to get clarity and then have a clear idea and really do that really well. And I hope that everyone will say, credit to Martin as well, that Pure has really focused in on what it wants to be, and it wants to be the trusted voice in this arena. And we bring experts to the arena to give artists and people within that creative realm access to business knowledge to help them run their micro and SME businesses more successfully. And I think that's what we've been really focusing on over the last year. And with the broadcasts and with the courses and with the workshops, I hope we're doing just a few things really well. Yes, I absolutely agree, Vincent. Multitasking is bad for us. I had to multitask, and we're going to cover this elephant in the room off straight away today before we get going. I had to multitask really at a high level yesterday because we had a massive scam be put out to our community about someone who wanted to buy artwork, and they had basically rebranded their own email as our email. And it was really effective because lots of people were emailing me going, that's amazing, thank you so much. And I was like, no, it was heartbreaking to have to tell them that it wasn't true. It was a scam. And the scammers actually at the same time tried to take over our Instagram and kicked us off of our own Instagram channel as well. So I had to deal with that last night. So I had to drop every other ball in order to do that really well. And in a previous incarnation, pre-Martin, I probably would have stayed up till 3 a.m. trying to do everything else as well. And by probably about 11:30 last night, I would have been doing the other things really badly and have to go back today and correct them all. So thank you, Martin.
My pleasure.
I didn't. I just concentrated on that, parked everything else, and thought I'll deal with everything else in the morning when I'm fresh. And a few people then emailed me and said, you were going to do that yesterday. And I said, yes, sorry, I couldn't, because I'll do it now. And everyone was so understanding of that. So, yeah, multitasking isn't healthy. It's not healthy for us, and it's not productive. So singular tasking well, one thing at a time with a clear focus, I think. So before we get into the jet engine and how it all works and how that can help artists and anyone really, not just artists, but anyone who's watching this, can you tell us where it all started for you and how you ended up writing that? Go back to the beginning.
Yes.
Right back.
Absolutely. Well, it's kind of a story in two parts, because I'm a designer turned business leadership and life coach. And so I want to start with the design part of my journey. And it probably started when I was about 8 or 9 years old, when I won a a Blue Peter competition. I wasn't the top winner, but it was designing a train of the future. And I was so chuffed by winning the badge. I think I realized there was this magic in creating things, designing things from our minds. And that kind of set me on a journey of wanting to be a designer. And I went to Art College Design School. I won an RSA competition and won a month in Japan in Sony's design studio. And
wow,
which was amazing. It was a fantastic experience.
How old were you when you went there then?
I was a second, I've been 3 years at design college. So I was about 20, 21. I can't remember the exact maths. But
exciting.
It was extremely, it was the highlight of my life to that point. It was an amazing experience. I absolutely loved Japan and being there at a fantastic time. And then later in my career, probably the highlight was, do you remember when all toothbrushes used to be straight, handheld toothbrushes, not electric?
Yes.
And I, as a freelancer, did a job and designed the first wavy handled toothbrush that was more ergonomic. And they sat on it for 3 years. It was too radical. But we still have that trend in handheld toothbrushes, and I earned something like £600 as a freelance designer for it.
There's another top tip there on IP, isn't there?
Well, I wouldn't have had the job if I'd insisted on royalties, so it was either take the money or nothing. And then through my design career, I started to get fascinated by personal development. And what I realized was all the information was being downloaded to me. Back in those days, it was by books, or on stage with people talking at me, or listening to cassette tapes in my car. And it was all words, and I'm a visual person. I like tools, I like systems, and I got quite frustrated with how the information was being delivered. And it set me on a journey of wanting to be part of the process of improving how people took on information. And that led to a morph in my career, and I won't go through all the transitions, but I ended up working with a top leadership coach, Gil Dove, in central London, helping him research, design, and develop his leadership training material. And it was a natural progression for me to then also be part of the delivery to become a coach. And so I spent a long time learning about leadership, business, life, looking into therapy, understanding humans and human behavior. Then when I moved locally, and much more it was about the business coaching, not just the leadership coaching, I started to spot a common journey as I worked with businesses and I was in various groups. And I saw how many businesses followed a sequence of steps as they learned, developed, grew, realized the bits they weren't covering, and realized there's about 17 steps, 17 parts to a business. And I turned that into an idea, a system, a tool to try and speed up that journey for so many businesses so they could see their business much more clearly, much more quickly, and get on top of those 17 parts. And really, that's how the whole thing started. It was really with that Blue Peter badge to trying to create a tool to help people do their job better, which is running their business. And Nadine has a Blue Peter badge too.
Well done, Nadine. I haven't. I feel left out now.
Out of the club.
I didn't get a Blue Peter badge. No. I won quite a lot of drawing competitions though when I was a child. Isn't it fascinating how what happens in our childhood? You can look back and you can directly relate to where you are now and the journey that you've been on, and how that baggage can either be a positive impact on us or a negative impact on us.
Or both. The blessing and the curse.
Mm. Yeah.
The yin yang, everything comes together. Yeah.
Yeah. And how Nadine bizarrely and I we did a wellness chat last week, and we were talking about this, how you can decide to let the horses just run the cart for you, or you can decide to hold the reins, and how tight you hold the reins. And that's the blessing and the curse, isn't it? It's like, how much of those 17 bits do you need to give your attention to? So talk us through that. What are the processes, the critical first things you think that where someone could potentially go wrong in the beginning that could cause a crisis?
Okay, and well, I won't talk you through the whole thing because that takes about 20 minutes. But in its simplest terms, there's the heart of the jet engine. That's your basic product or service, the problem you solve for your clients. And if you don't have that right, if you're not getting what you are good at and passionate about with the problem they have, you don't have those two intersecting well, it gives you an edge that's hard to copy and solves the problem brilliantly. Is kind of don't start. If you don't have that product right, and you've got to have that right in the very beginning.
And I wonder how that relates to art then, because obviously the art is not a product that is there to meet a need. It's a luxury. It's a luxury good, isn't it? It's a luxury item that you don't need it, but you do need it.
But,
you don't need it, but you need
surely
it.
The collector or the buyer of the art wants to express themselves, and they are bringing on board items of art that help them express themselves to themselves and to their guests and other people who share that art with them. So there is still that intersect. And, you know, I'm not trying to sell my art, but in your questionnaire, you asked what would you suggest to any sort of artist trying to make a living from it. And it's absolutely be passionate about your art, but also listen to your customers and what it is they want from your art. You know, and you have to respond to that too without compromising, and find how do I marry the two. And what I love about design is it's never either or. If I have that, I can't have that. You're always asking, how do I have both? How do I make what I want and what they want, put them together so it's richer? If I really listen and understand their needs and tune into my own, there should be always a better solution. So I love that aspect of design. Not always possible, but a lot of the times when you're creative, there is. So
what you're saying is listen. Yeah,
really understand what it is your client wants. And in business, you have to start there. If you're not solving the problem or the need or the want or the desire of your client, your customer, don't start. And if you can't do it better than others with more passion, more love, more care, and do it in a way that it's hard for others to copy overnight, it's almost like, you know, don't compete yet. Don't get into the playing field till you find that nugget, or at least start the quest, but continue the quest to find that. Because that's what gives you an edge. That helps you stand out. It's very hard to stand out unless you do stand out. So you want to find that spark that makes you, and it's about niching. You know, finding that niche where you really meet a need.
Yeah. So thinking that through in an artistic context, we always say to the artists when they're, you know, first starting out, you need to build your roots as deep as you want your tree to be high. You can't rush it. There's no rush in this. You have to take the time. You have to explore. You have to fail, to learn, to grow. And if you do that, you'll come to the essence of what is you, truly you, passionate and authentic you. And when you then come to the point of putting that out into the marketplace, people will respond to it because it will have that integrity and authenticity. Yeah. And that's the same with a product, really.
And I love what you're saying, because with many businesses, when I first introduced the idea of competitive advantage, and they kind of start to look a bit scared and go, well, I'm not sure we have one. And then we talk about all the things they've done, they've experienced, what they've learned that they bring, even if it's from a different discipline, to what they do now. So, for example, I've got 20 years design experience that I bring to business and leadership coaching. It's very hard for other coaches to replicate that depth of design, thinking, creativity, problem solving if you haven't done that. So artists can look back into themselves and go, well, what does my rich life experience help me bring to my art that's going to then coincide with something that the buyer, the collector is going to want to express about themselves? Where do we resonate jointly? So it's always there if you look back. You know, we've all had rich lives. We've all had our joys and our you know, our griefs, our trials. You know, and that tempers us. So we all have something magical to bring. So it's just about looking back and finding that mesh.
Yeah, it's the story, isn't it? So it's not just listening to the audience and what they're responding to about your work, but it's also looking within.
Yeah.
I say this in our foundation course, it's turn to you. You have to make a turn to you in order to make a turn to the audience and to be successful. But the very first turn you need to make is to yourself. And you need to look within yourself and see what it is that is true and genuine, and all that experience, and really honor all of that life that you've lived, and then put that out in your art, however that goes out, whether you're a painter or a ceramicist. Nadine obviously does the meditation. If you put all of that out in a genuine and have integrity and authentic way, and you've listened to your audience, so you know what their pain points are, and you know what they're really seeking to get from their interaction with you, whether that is observing your art and they're responding to the emotion, or whether that is a product and you're meeting a particular need, you cannot fail to be successful. However, you can fail to be successful if you don't get some other critical things in place as well.
Well, absolutely. And it's the starting point of the journey. And the bit people kind of tend to understand most is the heart of the jet engine, the heart of business, which is you do need that problem you solve for your clients. There's how you look after them whilst you solve it, your customer service, how loved they feel whilst you deliver that product or service, and how efficient you are, your operations, how well do you deliver that product or service, so it doesn't take you a long time to do something so it becomes non-profitable. So there's the heart of the engine you've got to get right. And then you've got to get the air in the engine for it to work. That's this whole sales and marketing cycle. I won't go through all the bits of that.
No, we cover that quite a lot. If anyone wants to look at more about sales and marketing side, go to the blog, because we do lots of things about how to market your business and how to look at that aspect. I think the interesting thing for me today is the more operational side, because this is where artists often, and other small micro businesses and SMEs, fall down, because they don't think about their cash flow, and they don't think about how to make what they do profitable, because inevitably it can take 3 or 6 months to make a painting or an artwork, or it can take a lifetime and 3 and 6 months, and a lifetime or 6 weeks, whatever. If then the next stage they don't get operationally correct, they're never going to be able to make it into a business where they can feed themselves and they can pay their mortgage and etc. They need to think about that bit, the air.
Yeah. And so the next bit of the jet engine is exactly that. It's the fuel in the engine, which is the finances and getting those right. So am I allowed to plug my book at this point? Because
yes, plug your book.
Tips in it.
Plug your book.
There is a book, The Business Jet Engine, available on Amazon.
You need to hold that up for a few more minutes. They've got to write that down and everything.
The Business Jet Engine, available on Amazon.
Slow.
You do it later.
No, you're fine now. I think they've got
it. But in that, one of the mistakes people make is things like coming up with sales targets or financial plans. That they try and overcomplicate it too soon, or they don't do it because they think it's going to be too detailed. And I'm all about keeping things simple and become more sophisticated as you evolve as a business. So you can very simply say, well, how many works of art do I need to sell in a month or a year to create the revenue I need to survive? And you divide that up, and that tells you what you need to be charging. If you can only produce X amount of work per month, then you know to survive what you need to sell it at. So it's looking at what sales do I need in very simple terms. What are my expenses in very simple terms? That gives you your plan for profit. What's left over is your profit. So the book, I go through some of the ways you just do these things very, very simply, which is why I'm mentioning it. So there's the whole...
With artists, we obviously have to chuck in the whole sales commission issue and the paying to have the opportunity, because very often artists, if they're in a gallery, they're going to be paying 50% commission.
Yeah, so that would be in the expenses. You've got your sales targets, you've got your expenses. So those would come out of that, and that gives you what's left.
It does appreciate the artist's situation somewhat. I know, because they struggle with that. They think if they don't sell it through the gallery, then they can sell it for 50% to, Joe Bloggs down the street. And that's absolutely not. That's the first thing that you must not do. You have one price for your artwork and you sell it at that price anywhere. And as I say to my artists that I mentor, if you sell it to Joe Bloggs down the street, the other 50% is your bonus. think about it as your Christmas bonus, and you
Yeah.
can put it in a little account somewhere and spend it for something lovely. But you don't drop the price. You don't give away your profit. And the other thing that artists often have to pay for, which they forget to include, is things like submitting online for things, paying to be in marketplaces, which is like a regular, like 20 quid a month. They forget to include that kind of stuff. They forget to include when they've had to pay for a stand somewhere to show their art.
All your costs. Yeah.
All these costs often get forgotten, and you need to put them down in your cash flow when you're starting to write all of this down in the beginning. Otherwise, you've got the roots issue again. You're going to take so long to actually come into a profitable situation that by then you're in a crisis. Often when they come to me, I'm trying to prevent some crises here. You're in a crisis, and then we're going to have to find other routes to making money, because you can't suddenly go from selling a painting for 100 quid to £1,000, because no one will tolerate that. They'll go, how come your work is now worth that? You have to respect to collectors, etc. So yeah, there's quite a lot of complex stuff in there. So I think the book will really help artists with understanding all of that.
So once you've got air and fuel in your engine, which is getting the sales and marketing right, understanding the finance side, keeping it simple, you've then got to get the people side right. Whether you have a team of support around you, whether you outsource certain things, but it's all about really making sure you're working with the very best team, because if you're not, you spend a lot of your time just dragging yourself down, trying to get non-performers to perform, trying to get people to do jobs not very well. So you've really got to get an A team around you. So that's the wing that goes on the engine. Otherwise, your aircraft's going to shoot off in all sorts of wrong directions unless you have the fine controls right.
So
then finally,
so wait, because I'm going to relate that to artists now. So the wing for the artist, because not many artists will be in a position where they can employ a big team of people, although some do. You know, I'm interviewing tomorrow.
But it's that whole network.
I know. That's exactly what I was about to say. So Pure is part of your wing. So anyone who's in the Pure is a Pure member. Pure, we're part of your wing, and it's things like which exhibitions you decide to submit for. It's where you're seen, really. It's the community it's the people and the community and the company you're keeping is your wing. All of these people are on your wing, and they'll be helping you along the way. It's the courses you decide to do and the tutors you pick. In terms of an artist, these are the things you should be thinking of. I need to get some professional development. Which artist courses am I going to choose to go on? Now, artists have a tendency, because they struggle, in the beginning to make money. Once they get this all right, they start to make really good money. But they struggle in the beginning to make money, and they tend to try and find things that are cheap or free. This is a broken wing. This is a wing with a hole in it. It's the roots. If you invest well in good quality courses, they are going to cost you a decent amount of money. I can assure you, if you invest up front in those decent and quality courses, you will reap the rewards from those 50, 100 times as you get further down the line, because they're now on your wing and you can tell people you've done it. So you want to be picking the best tutor you possibly can. You want to be picking the best art school that you can possibly go to, the best courses, the best community to be with, because that's in terms of an artist, that's your wing. Don't try not to go cheap, because cheap is cheap in any language, and you're only going to get what is it? Pay peanuts, get monkeys.
That's what they say.
That is what you'll get. That's what you'll get, unfortunately. And when people say to me, I can't afford your course, I say, I'm really sad about that. I don't go, I'll give it you on a discount. I say, I'm really sad that you can't. We can do payment terms, and we're always happy to do payment terms to help people get as far as they possibly can. So always come and ask us if you can't afford what we do and you're happy to pay in installments, we're happy to let you pay in installments because we'd like you to access the best that's out there. We've learned over 20, 25 years and networking with the best people. We've got lots of good people on our wing, like Martin, how to do this stuff efficiently and effectively. So yeah, for an artist, it's not necessarily people you employ, but it's the services you buy to help you become better at what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. Or any other way you help free up your time by getting someone to do something you could do, but they can do it better, more quickly and more cheaply than you do it yourself. So you focus on the high value task, and that might even include whether you get a cleaner.
Exactly.
Make sure you've got a great cleaner that you love having in your home.
Yeah.
All of those are your team.
Yeah. And your family. I found that by talking this language with my family and practicing what I preach within my family unit. So being optimistic, always saying, okay, I understand how you're feeling right now. However, let's have a think about how we could make that better. My family have become part of my team. And so when I'm having a down day, they pick me up, which is great. Bring them all on. Bring the dog, the cat, everyone. They're all on your wing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so once you've got your aircraft up in the air flying around, because you've got your engine working well and your wing, that's actually illegal. If you're in a jet plane, you've got to have plans. You've got to have a captain in the cockpit who knows where he's trying to go, and he's looked at, what do I need to get there? Have I got enough fuel? Have I got an agreed flight path? Have I got permission to land at the other end? You've got to know, even if it's in simple terms, what am I trying to achieve? Why am I trying to achieve it? And how am I going to do it? So I've thought it through in sufficient detail. And then you've got to have the dials on the cockpit to measure and monitor progress, to see, are you on track with your plans? Are you going to achieve what you want to? And if not, you've got to try and course correct.
Yeah, and so in terms of an artist, then that's your thinking about it at the beginning of the year, having a vision of the wonderful things you want to achieve, but also thinking about the actual steps, the actions that you need to take along the way and how they will manifest themselves in real outcomes for you. So I know, at the moment, obviously, we're doing all the broadcasts and we're making sure that everyone has all the information they need. And this supports us. Sorry, everyone knows my voice goes quite quickly. I do too much talking. So we know that we've got all of the backstory in place. So anyone who comes on our courses, they've got access to lots and lots of good quality advice. That just doesn't happen overnight. I had to think about that back in January, and I had to work out all of the people I wanted to contact and get signed up for various talks and write the course. And that took me a year to do. But I knew my KPIs were I needed to have this, so 20 people signed up to do broadcasts. And I knew that I had to have at least one course written and trialed during this year. And so when I start hitting those targets, I know that my plan is coming together. And in terms of artists, it might be you want to have at least one opportunity to exhibit your work. You might want to have your website in place and functioning well. You might want to have done at least 2 or 3 live speaks to camera in some format so people can access you and know your story. So in terms of the dials, I'd be interested to hear more about what dials you think would be good indicators.
It depends.
We need it on the dial.
It depends how sophisticated your business is. So, but what I generally try and suggest is keeping it as simple as possible as you get started and add detail as you go. But really, yes, you do want to sense what are my priorities for this year, and you do need to have some marketing priorities, sales and marketing. You do need to have some financial priorities that you've thought through. They're probably the most important ones, but you also need to have a sense of the midterm and the long term. Where am I ultimately trying to go in 5 or 10 years? Because there's no point going as fast as you can south when you want to see the Northern Lights. you want to head in the direction that's the right one as often as you can.
How often have I seen that happen? It's like, you're doing really well going that way. Oh, I wanted to go that way.
And it sounds so obvious. So this is what I call the advanced basics. It's about getting these basic things right, keeping them as simple as you possibly can as you progress, but covering all the bases. Because if you don't, you end up with a very lopsided business, and that's normally the bit that lets you down. So getting that business balanced enough that you're covering them all, but simply.
Yeah, so you want your wings balanced, so getting good quality people on your wings. And as we say, that's not necessarily employees for artists, but that's all the things that you spend your money on to improve yourself and help you. And you need to know the dials, and the two key dials are money and marketing. They're M's. You should be able to remember that.
Well, shall I quickly just run through the 17 parts? I won't explain them in detail.
Go on then.
So there's getting your product right, getting your customer service right, getting your operations right, which is about efficiently producing what you do. Then there's getting your marketing, attracting new customers. Then there's selling to those new customers once you've found them, they've made an inquiry. Then you want to create happy customers. So you need to know they're happy with what you've done. Then you need to get customer feedback to know what you could change, fix, or improve. You need to remarket back to existing customers. It took you a lot of time and effort to win them. So make sure they know everything else you're doing. You also need to think about long-term, where are those customers going? How might they change? So that's about future planning, market intelligence long-term. How is my market changing? That's your sales and marketing loop. In the finance, there's getting your pricing right and learning to price test so you charge as much as you possibly can, and constantly upgrading and testing. There's having a plan for profit, so you're actually going to make some money from all your hard work. So for that, you need management accounts. You need some regular checks on how you're doing so you can course correct and try and improve the profit you're making. And then you've got to have a plan for reinvestment. So that's the financial cycle. Then on your wing, there's the quality of your team around you and how well you lead that team. So there's two parts to the wing. And then, as we said, there's your plans and your targets, your KPIs, how you measure and monitor your overall progress. So all of those, you need to have a bit of thinking done in each area. It doesn't need to be overly sophisticated, and the more your business evolves, the more sophisticated those areas will become. But they are 17 bases that need to be got right.
Yeah, you need to cover them. And now I know on your blog, there's quite a lot of blog articles in there. So if people want to go and have a look at Martin's website, I put up on the bottom here, Business Jet Engine free trial, because that's a 28-day free trial that people can do, which I really, we've got 25 days of Advent, then a couple. It's a good use of your time in December, getting ready for January and thinking about how you're going to make 2021 the best year ever, because we've had quite a disrupted and difficult in places. There's a song about that, isn't there? Difficult in places. 2020. Sticky in places.
So it's a really good time for a reset. Yeah. And a lot of people I work with, January is a good time to kind of reset and refocus those plans. Yeah. And what the Jet Engine concept allows people to do is see all those parts, see their business holistically, and then identify the 1, 2, or 3 areas to really get right in 12 months, not to try and get everything, not all of those 17 parts up and perfect in a year. It's unreasonable. It's going to take 3 years to really round your business off. So it's a longer term process to get it right. Don't rush it. Take your time. But be aware you've got to, in time, be covering all the bases well.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, isn't it? There's no rush. Don't try and do everything at once. But there are some fundamentals, and it doesn't matter whether you're an artist or someone who makes widgets, whatever it is, there are some fundamentals that everybody has to take. Small steps. This is, as long as you're moving forward and taking action, because planning without action is just madness. You're not going to get anywhere. You wasted your time planning.
And we were laughing in the green room. I was saying I'm a recovering perfectionist.
Yeah.
And the risk is to try and perfect each of those areas. And what I'd encourage is just do them well enough. Keep it simple for now. One of the things I learned from my product design days, say particularly if you're designing a machine that has lots of parts, and if you put all of your attention and you focus on one quarter of the machine and you get that perfectly thought through, then work to the next corner, then to the third corner. By the time you get to the fourth corner, all your problems are there that you can't resolve, and you end up having to scrap it and start again. So it's what I used to call roughing up the design. You think through roughly each corner and work your way around. It's an iterative process, and bit by bit, you keep refining the overall design. And that's what business growth is like, is bit by bit, keep working your way around, knowing which is the weakest area, which is the area, if I improve this, it will make the biggest difference this year, and get that right, get it good enough. Not perfect, get it done well enough for this year. Move on to the next bit and keep roughing up the design year on year. And people tend to overestimate what they can do in a year, but underestimate what they'll do in 10 years. And the clients who stick with the process year on year get a long way ahead. And those that do it for a year go, well, I haven't changed the world, and give up. They're the ones who then lose out, because actually you look back and very little changes in 5 years for them, or 3 years.
Yeah, these things take time.
Yeah.
But if you show up every day, and you do something every day, you'll get there.
Yeah.
I mean, I look back now, 2020, we're not gonna kind of use that as an example because that's just been ridiculous. But if I look back to 10 years, I can't believe that it was 10 years ago, where we were and what we were doing 10 years ago, and to where we are now. But that's because we just showed up every day and just did something. And sometimes you can't bring your best self, can you?
No.
Sometimes you just can't. Sometimes you're tired, or
we're like human.
Yeah, we're human. And sometimes stuff happens in your life and you think, I can't do that for now. I'm going to have to take a bit of a break from it. But as long as you acknowledge it and then come back to it, if you've got the plans in place, it's easy. You just go, okay, I'm back on the train because I know where I was going and I can get back on that now. But we are human. We have to accept that we can't just be pushing 24/7. We need to have a balance. And
I think there's a very important thing about plans there, because sometimes we just have to scrap the plan and start again. But one of the things I observe is that either people feel overwhelmed with advice, things they should do, etc., and therefore they end up doing nothing at all, or they try and fix everything all at once, which leads to confusion, stress, burnout, etc. And the thing about keeping plans simple, keeping the focus simple. If you imagine a boat on the water, a small boat with an engine on the back, and it's in calm waters, but it hasn't got the anchor down and the engine's not running. It's just drifting with the winds and the tides. That it's a little uncomfortable being on that boat, maybe pleasant, maybe a little uncomfortable. But as the waves get up, that boat becomes unstable. It starts to get tossed and moved around by winds and tides. But the minute you put a bit of power in the engine and it has some forward momentum, it becomes more stable. And I think we're like that as people. Businesses are like that. Having a simple plan, a simple direction. As you get more momentum, you can course correct. Even if you're heading the wrong way, it's better to be heading somewhere than nowhere because you're more stable. And we may need to change the plan, but we'll be in a much better place to do it. So I think it's better to have a plan rather than no plan. And don't procrastinate so long because you're trying to get the perfect plan.
Yeah, there is no perfect plan. We have got one of the things we do in the courses is a one-page marketing plan. Try and get everything you want to do on one page.
Yeah.
Because that's all you need.
Huge fan of these simple summaries and trying to keep it as simple but as clear as you can.
Yeah, one-page marketing plan. That's all you need. You don't, and believe me, I mean, I've worked in marketing for years. The complicated plans, they fail every time. And they're too complex, and someone in the chain doesn't deliver something and the whole thing kind of implodes. The simple stuff, doing it over and over again. And it's that word again, you have to be authentic. You have to be true to yourself. You have to talk about your story. When I say authentic, that's what I mean. You have to be Don't go and try and nick it off somebody else. You can be inspired by other people, but don't try and nick it off somebody else. Be you, because that's what people want. They want to see you, they want to see who you are, and they want to see the genuine article, and that's what they will buy from you. They won't very often buy the product, they buy the person. Do you find that?
It's very much about relationships, yes. And in the end, it's always one person buying from another person, person to person. And increasingly, I think we're starting to crave authentic connection. I think we're getting so alienated, with our digital super fast age, that we're looking for more and more ways to have a genuine experience. And in the end, that comes down to people.
How does that fit into the jet engine? Whereabouts is the relationship? Because we are always saying it's about relationship management, making genuine connections and relationships with people, whether it's on social media, whether it's in the real world, whether it's at exhibitions, wherever you wouldn't just go up and shout in someone's face. That's not going to ever ingratiate you and make you a friend. You need to build genuine relationships. How does that fit in?
Well, in most areas, it starts with what I was saying about getting the product right. If you don't understand your customers, if you don't care about their needs, wants, desires, aspirations, that's the first act of love, is meeting that need for them better than others do, because you understand them, you've given them more time, more thought to get something right for them. But then the next step, the customer service. Don't we all want to feel loved and cared about? And great customer service, we know from inquiry to sign off, that person really cared about what they did for us. And then in the operations, the delivery, it comes through there. Are we delivering in a way that is right for the customer, but getting it, efficient, clean, simple? And then in the whole sales and marketing, we all hate being sold to. What we want is someone that understands us, somebody that actually understands our challenges, needs, desires better than anyone else. When someone gets us, we go, I trust you. You're talking about me and my needs, making me feel safe because you get me. Actually, you're the person to help me fix this. So it's all the way through the sales and marketing, is showing that care, that desire to understand. The finances, I can't quite put my head around where that would be, so we'll skip that.
You have a really good relationship with your bank manager. And your husband, in my case, because then he doesn't have a go at me if I spend money.
Home relationships are critical. And then being the captain in the cockpit. In the end, if we're not looking after our clients, where are we going? But it's always about love for ourselves and love for the client in equal balance. If we give too much, giving more than we can afford to give. Love, care, kindness is always about giving what you can, but looking after yourself in the process when you don't have anything to give. So it's always about balance.
I think that's when I came to you, when I realised that I was giving everything of myself and I wasn't taking any self-care. And that was disrespectful to my audience, because I was depleting myself and I wasn't going to be able to show up in the best way. I was just exhausted. And that's when I found a mentor. How you provide mentorship to me, but have you ever had a mentor, and how do you feel about that?
Mentors are as old as time. You look at all the great legends, histories. Joseph Campbell, I'm a huge fan of him. He was one of the great mythologists, and he wrote something which he summarizes the hero's journey or heroine's journey, which is the common motifs around the life journey. And key in that is the mentor. So yes, I've had mentors through my life, absolutely. Some have challenged me to every shred of everything I value. And I wish I'd understood the value of mentors earlier. I had them, but didn't kind of get as much from them as I could have done until I really understood the value. But yes, the point of a mentor is they know the labyrinth. They know the opportunities within the labyrinth, the system that you are trying to explore. They know the opportunities and they know the pitfalls. They're not in the labyrinth for you. You still have to do it, but they are there to speed up your learning, which is ultimately, in the end, your own learning. You have to win the trial. You have to defeat the dragon or the minotaur, or dance with it, whatever success is. I don't always think we should kill the dragon. I'm a huge fan of dragons.
Yeah, careful, because Ed might be watching and he's got a book on dragons and he likes the dragons.
Love dragons, absolutely. We could talk about dragons all day. But the mentor is there to speed that journey. And I think, there's differences. There's mentors, there's coaches, there's trainers. All three have slightly different nuance. In the end, they're all there to support your journey and help you build your confidence and competence in an area. And in the end, it's what you make your own. But it's them speeding the process for you.
Yeah, they kind of like shine the light. And then things that were, I know when I came to you, I said, everything was like a fog. And I knew there was somewhere through there, but I just couldn't see it. And it was a fog. And then you shine the light. And I'm like, oh, okay. I get it now. But I had to do it. I had to kind of leap through. You weren't going to do it for me. I had to do it myself.
No, and it may be worth just quickly touching on the difference between training, coaching, and
yes,
mentoring.
I think so. Yeah.
Because training, normally there's a learning objective. I as a trainer have in mind that I would like you to understand a concept, a system, a method. So I will go through the steps to make sure you've understood that system, that method, that principle. But then we'll look at, is anything of that of use to you? Does any of that apply? What's good, what's bad, what relates to you? So to me, that's training. Coaching is more about, and the classic metaphor is the mirror. You're standing back, asking people questions to help them understand their own process. So they can look in a mirror, and you're acting as mirror going, well, actually what you just said, what you just described to me is this, this, and this. So it's all about asking the right questions, open enough questions to help you see your world, what's going on, and then make better choices with it. And that's kind of a bit of what you were describing there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whereas a mentor is tending to give a bit more guidance about, well, I've been in that labyrinth. These are some of the things I experienced. These are some of the steps you might take, or I think you should take. There might be more advice from a mentor, but in the end, you still have to go and do the task.
Yes, absolutely. That's the difference, isn't it?
And I use a bit of all three.
Yeah, me too. I think I kind of spectrum across all of those, because I see the mentor analogy I use is with a mentor, they have the ability to open a door for you. Yeah. Whereas with the coach, you have to open the door yourself. So that's the difference. I could say when I'm mentoring someone, well, we've done the brainstorm and now you need that. We've agreed you need that. So that's the action you're going to take. Oh, and actually I can help you now, because I can open the door for you. And now you still have to walk through it and make the best of it, but I can facilitate that. And training, again, on the other end, is probably a bit more formulaic. And you can do that to a group audience, whereas I prefer to do the coaching and mentoring to more on a one-to-one, because it's a more bespoke service.
Yeah, and I wouldn't minimise the value of any. I just think it's useful sometimes to know which you're working with in the moment.
Yeah, they're different. They're different things at different times for different people with different needs.
Yeah.
And that's why as you say, we spectrum across all of them. The one thing I'm not, although sometimes people think I am, is a therapist. I'm not a trained therapist. And if someone comes to me and I find that they need therapy, then I will refer them on to somebody else. And I don't know about yourself, but I'm not a therapist, so I don't have that training.
I venture into that terrain, but no, I'm not a qualified therapist, although I do quite deep personal work.
I know. I've suffered.
Thank you for that endorsement.
It was good suffering. It was purposeful suffering. I needed to do it. I needed someone to take me there. That's what I needed. Apparently we're not on Facebook, but that's bizarre because we are live streaming. So I'm sure it will appear. It might be on the live, Sophie. You might have to look on the live channel, because that's where it will be. It'll be on the live channel on Facebook, not just on the general Facebook. So we have a question. Has anyone else got any questions? Oh, you mentioned no questions on Facebook. Good. No questions on Facebook. Okay, how has the jet engine dealt with COVID is the question. Oh, interesting. How do you interpret that?
Well, I'm imagining the question, or assuming the question means the jet engine model. How does that help you deal when you get a big sort of unexpected incident like COVID?
Yeah.
And you've always got to come back to that first bit. What's the problem I'm solving? So the jet engine per se doesn't solve that issue, but the idea that you've got to have that first bit right, the problem you solve for your client, it's in there that you've got to be listening to your clients. You've got to be talking to them and saying, well, where are you at? What are you struggling with? What are the problems that you are struggling to address? Or if they don't know, you then ask them, well, so where are your clients? If you're stuck not knowing what to do, have you spoken to your clients? What's their situation? What do they need help with? And then I might know how I can help you with that. So you've always got to start with, if something like COVID throws up that your clients just want to shut down and do nothing, it's helping them understand where they're at and what they need to do next. And do you have a part in that? And you may not. In which case you've got to look for, who can I help right now? So it's right back to that first part of the jet engine. You've got to be understanding the problem you're solving and what the need is.
Yeah, I think
there's nothing to sell.
Yeah, I think it's the engine, because if I use that analogy for Pure, obviously we were previously delivering, prior to COVID, we were delivering in-person workshops and in-person exhibitions and big scale events. And of course, when COVID came, we couldn't do that anymore. And the first thing I did, which is part of the jet engine principle, is to get feedback, evaluate, and decide if you need to change course. And that's a critical part of the jet engine, really, is looking at your plans and saying, right, I've listened, I've evaluated. Now, do I carry on that course regardless, or do I change course? And we very clearly had to change course. And then we go back to, now what's the product? Now feedback, listen again. Is that what you want? Trial it. Yes. Okay, now we're on a course again, but you constantly have to do the feedback and evaluation, test and trial bit, which I think in the jet engine is pretty critical to keeping your engine turning. Because if you don't do that, you're going to suddenly be delivering something that no one wants.
Yeah. And if that's the reality, that's the reality. And it's been very difficult for some businesses and a lot of businesses. There's no denying that. Equally, not everybody has been stuck without money or without needs. There are other people where they've had more money to spend. Apparently, you can't get a certain thickness glass because everybody's been going out converting their vans into camper vans. There's a huge boom in the camper van market. There's booms in certain markets. Where people have cash they haven't spent abroad. So there are still opportunities. Doesn't mean it's easy to find, but there are always opportunities in adversity. But, we're human. Some of us, it's just been overwhelming. Some people have just gone into stress and closed down. And I nothing but empathy for people where that's been their reaction. And you just have to work through that. You can't then just drive your business forward when you're feeling like shite. Exactly. You have to look after yourself first and go, well, actually, what do I need as a human to help me get through this? Because actually my whole world's imploded. So
this is your wing then, isn't it? It's like going back to your wing at that point and going, I'm crashing. What do I need on my wing to stop me crashing?
My wings come off. I personally can't cope. What I need is to personally, emotionally recover from this. What do I need to look after me so I can then start to think straight?
Yeah, absolutely. So the jet engine, no matter what the situation, whether it's a trauma response, which is what we've had to have in 2020 is a trauma response, if you stick to the plan, you'll get to the solution and repair your engine if it's repairable. Some aren't. Some might need to be scrapped and, new engines built quite quickly. But if you're not sticking to some sort of plan, then you could not willingly skid off the runway.
You're doing really well here, Leslie.
I have been an advocate. I've been through the school.
But in the end, it's a metaphor, and every metaphor in the end, every metaphor breaks down and doesn't cover everything. So I'm not going to pretend the jet engine is the solution to all things. It's basically a simplified planning tool to help you improve your business.
Yeah, and it really does help.
You're doing a fantastic job.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Can I have a Blue Peter badge now?
You can't have mine. It's ancient.
I don't think Nadine's going to give me hers. I'm going to have to get some. I'm going to have to apply for a Blue Peter badge myself now. That's really disappointing. I thought you'd give me yours. So finally, just to kind of like fill that loop of, you know, mentors and training and tools, jet engine tools, and what else? Coaching. The other thing, which you and I have been talking about, which we're thinking to do in 2021, is masterminds.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether that is a word that anyone who's watching is familiar with, the word masterminds. I only heard it very recently, and I went on one. I was like, oh, what's that? That's interesting. And it was being run by someone who I thought was really interesting. So I hopped on and went to this mastermind. Oh my goodness, I learned so much from this group of people who were in this mastermind. So could you tell us very quickly, to finally, what is a mastermind and how that helps you, how it's different, I suppose?
Yeah. Well, a mastermind group is typically a group of people on a common journey. So you normally have some facilitators who are guiding the process, bringing their own expertise and wisdom. But the fantastic thing is you then have the group wisdom. Everybody in the group is normally bringing their own experiences, what they've learned, what they've tried, what's worked, what hasn't. So you're not on your own anymore. You've got a collective experience, and you pool that knowledge and that creative problem solving. So it just amplifies the wisdom and the speed at which you can learn, which makes it a very, very powerful process to be part of. And it gives you a support group too. When things are tough, there's normally a bond that forms with the group. You get to know, like, trust, care about the people in the group. And if they're having a wobble or a difficult time and they're brave enough to speak up, it's amazing. I've seen the support that kind of then can surround them from other members of the group. Because they're all in it together, you know.
Yeah, I definitely felt that. I kind of engaged with a new group of people, and then I had a meeting with them yesterday, and I was like, wow, this is just so powerful, because everyone's bringing their collective experience to it. There is a leader as such, and normally one or two leaders that you can go to. You can say, well, we're experiencing this, and they'll give you their overview on it. But then it's the individual story again, storytelling, individual stories of, because I know when I'm coaching, I say, have you ever experienced that before? In a different circumstances, how would you deal with that? And that's what you're doing, isn't it? You're accessing other people's, have you ever done that before?
Yeah.
Have you ever experienced this before? Yes, I have. Great. Now I can do that learning through you. So Martin and I are going to do a mastermind in 2021, hopefully, all around the business jet engine model. And you'll be hearing more about that as we go through December and into January. I think we'll launch towards the end of January with that new mastermind. So watch out. There'll only be very few places on the first one, because I like to do things small. So there'll be a few places on the first one. But if you're interested, then keep watching all of our channels, because we'll be talking about that a bit more. Thank you so much, Martin.
It's been an absolute pleasure.
That's fascinating. I've done, I've obviously read the book and been through the system and everything, but even I was reminding myself of things that I need to think about for Pure now. What am I thinking about now? I need to think about that now. So
and it doesn't stop. It's a rinse and repeat process, and as people grow their businesses and they improve and develop, each time we stop and reset, there's always something new to do.
Yeah. So
because
if you're interested,
as one part of the business has got better, by comparison, another area may have got weaker, or the world's changed.
Yeah, sounds like your design thing again as you go round.
Yeah,
each time you go round.
It's like the human journey.
Yeah, continual loop. The only thing that we're guaranteed in life is change.
Yeah, life, death, and change.
Yeah, life. I was going to say
and death.
But I wasn't going to go there. But you had to go there, didn't you? I wasn't going to mention the D word. We did enough about that last week. We're not talking about that. But you're guaranteed change, and one of those may be death. Okay, I'm going to cover that off now. So if anyone's interested in doing the free trial, the button is at the bottom of the screen. It's green. And you can click on there, and it's a free trial, and you can get to know the business jet engine a bit more. And if you're interested in the mastermind, then you know where we are. you'll be hearing more about that, as I say, as we go through the next couple of months and how we're going to run that. So it'll be very small and exclusive though. Thank you for your time, as always. Absolutely fascinating, and hopefully it's been helpful for those people who have been watching. Martin has filled out my brutal interview questions that I always send to all of our speakers, and they'll be on the read page, and this will be on the watch page and on the podcasts within 24 hours. So,
if I could just point out, I didn't know it'd be going to be published. I thought it was for your eyes only, so it's a little bit tongue in cheek.
No, that's going to be put up on the website.
Okay.
Do you want to send me a slightly revised version?
I can't remember everything I've put.
I'll check it. I'll make sure there's nothing embarrassing on there. But I think it's really important for people who are coming on and listening to our speakers that they get to know you and your personality. So that's why we do that. And so, yeah, that'll be, you can read, listen and watch to Martin all about the business jet engine. So thank you so much. Thank you everyone for joining us. And the last one of Pure Talks 2 will be happening next Tuesday at 1. And I will be talking to Dr. Linda Smith, who is the newly appointed President of the Society of Women Artists. So that should be a fascinating one. Thank you. I'll see you all next week. Thanks, Martin. I'll speak to you very soon. Take care.